right? But instead, as a white man, he's fucking apologizing when he should have said, yo, y'all wanted this shit, stop playing. Right. But I'm going to apologize for playing my part.
Exactly. That is correct. So that's why when people make a big deal about the 94 crime bill, I wonder, like, I remember my grandmother, I was 9 or 8 or 9, and I remember my grandmother just, like, sitting and worry because the neighborhood in which our house was in was being overthrown by crackheads and drug dealers, and there was shootouts and all kinds of crazy shit going on. Like, the people voted for it, they wanted it. That's why I don't even, when they were talking about the 94 crime bill, I'm saying to myself, why are y'all making a big deal about something that the people of that time, black people, wanted?
So I've done some study on this, right? I did a deep dive on it. And first of all, let's be clear. It was the largest crime bill in United States history, right? It came at a time where the politics of the country was, in order for anybody to get elected to office, Democrat or Republican, you had to demonstrate that you were willing to be tough on crime, right? As a result of the crack epidemic, et cetera, et cetera. We failed to realize that bill also ushered in historical protection for women. It was the first time that
there was so much more on that crime.
Yeah, it was so much more to that bill, and so at the time, now if we wanted to pass the bill, all of us in this room, and we had to look at our Senate, and we wanted to pass the bill, we would want to pick the most articulate senator to be the voice of that bill. And at the time, Biden was that dude, charismatic, well-spoken, had relationships on both sides of the aisle, and so he was tasked with that. You know, and so this notion that he was the architect of it, because the structure of it began way before he even got involved. I believe it, you know, that the tenets of that crime bill, the philosophies and all of that were already in place.
Well, that started like the 1990s.
No, it was earlier than that. But the crime bill was the manifestation of a lot of frustration with what was going on in this country. And by and large, they had the support of the Black Caucus. I don't have my notes in front of me. I'm looking for them. But I've done...
We didn't even have help.
I've done extensive research, and like the numbers and the policies and all of that was a huge crime bill.
Right now, how is it happening?
Hold on. It also ushered in the registration of those that harm children, right? A registered sex offender came in with that bill. So people don't look at the totality of that bill. The problem was this. The problem was that racist prosecutors throughout the country were using that bill to target black folks, and those prosecutors were never held accountable. It's easy to put a face on the talking about Iran. No, hold on, bro.
No. So you're right.
Yeah,
we just went somewhere else. Let's get back. The only reason why he went to that is because you brought up the face of the Democratic Party versus the face of the MAGA Party. And the MAGA Party is not the same face, period.
Yeah, that's a new party. They like the Republican, they're an offshoot of the Republican Party. They are definitely not the same traditional conservative republics at all. They're on a whole different politic, which supports like white supremacist views.
And to be honest with you, we've never seen nothing like this before. This has never happened.
Never in history. That is never happened. Never saw it. Yeah, I'm looking for my notes.
We've never in history seen a government that's as fully white supremacist as the current government.
We're talking about so you were talking about the original title, right?
Yeah, the title was MAGA is leading us closer to war with Iran, and I was reminding you guys that Iran has been saying death to America for essentially the past 75 years.
And behind that, Americans have been saying death to America, death to...
I don't know what kind of Americans you hang out with.
Oh, well, there's a lot.
Israel's been saying death to the Palestinians.
Have you ever heard? They've been saying all kinds of shit about the free market.
There's a lot of Americans that say death to America. What percentage of Americans say death to America?
I mean, people here have been burnt the flag. People have...
I didn't ask if people here have burnt the American flag at protests. So the leader of the country of Iran says death to America. And the response to that was, people say death to America here in America too. Are there any American politicians who have ever been recorded saying death to America?
There haven't.
No,
so it's not really the same. It's not really the same.
I made that statement, and I definitely made the statement. And to your point, I made the statement. But my point in making the statement was not to be
politicians. I'm just talking about everything.
Yeah, I'm talking about, you got people here who, I mean, you can, bro, and I spoke about this earlier in the room, brother, listen, man, this MAGA party, like, somebody had put that, like, the last 6 months, everything changed, and I'm telling them, no. It was able to be executed because there has been an infrastructure being put in place for a very long time, and I contend that the fabric of America. Y'all get rid of that person.
Hold on, let me change this because this is getting crazy.
Thank you.
Y'all, I can't. My thing's not working. Take it cut down. Can you guys take it down?
I got him on.
So the point is, what we are seeing happen today in the last 6 months, it was the culmination of a well thought out plan. It was the culmination of an infrastructure being put in place. The fabric of America, right, has a white supremacist thread running through it since its inception. And that rears its head at different points in our history politically. The rising of the new head, or the catalyst for what we see today, was the election.
We're gonna have to talk about. We're talking about Iran.
So you guys are basically in the same exact place you were at in 2016. It's 10 years later, basically.
No.
Stop. So what I told you was, and I asked you a simple question: when in history between Israel, Iran, and the U.S. have you seen another direct or large-scale airstrike as of what happened last month?
Well, sure. I think it's basically they're trying to finish the.
I asked you a simple question. Has there ever in history been a direct or large-scale attack, or airstrike, that has happened, like what's happened in June of 2025?
I'm not sure. I would have to look it up.
There hasn't.
Yeah, it hasn't.
There hasn't.
So,
we've had history of covert attacks. We've had cyber warfare. We've had assassination. We may have even had proxy conflicts, if you're going to talk about Hezbollah or the Houthis. But there has never, in history, been a direct or large-scale attack of what had happened.
So what do you think that we should have, how should we respond to Iran instead?
So how the response should have been is the continued diplomacy or negotiation of how we get back to JCPOA, the original JCPOA agreement. The problem was, and there's so many alternate conversations on they just needed to reduce, when the reality was, and Trump has said it a million times, and I can pull it, he said no uranium enrichment. They signed an NPT. That NPT gave them the ability to have uranium enrichment, but only for civilian infrastructure, right? Which would also include medical. So if we were to say go back to the 3.5% based off of what they have as a nuclear site for that they use for power, they were supposed to actually build up to 20 of those power plants. They only have one. So, and if you go back to, like, let's say 3.5%, or what some people say 3.4, 3.3, but if you go back to the 3.5% threshold to power that one nuclear plant that was given to them by Russia, that was actually, they were part of that atom energy movement where they were taught how to use nuclear energy for clean energy. If we went back to the original JCPOA agreement, the original plan of action, maybe that would have worked. But instead, they decided to attack.
Well, that's can I respond to that? I mean, what you're saying is, if we went back to the JCPOA agreement, maybe that would have worked. Diplomacy would have worked, and maybe we could have appeased Iran, and they would have at some point
Not about only appeasing Iran. It's about
Okay. Oh, here we go. Okay.
Check this out. It's not only about it's not only about appeasing Iran. Like, we fucking broke the agreement.
Wait a minute. I heard what you said. Why is it so tricky for you to hear my response? Why is it so hard for you to hear the response?
Listen, hold on, my enemy. Please don't be that type of cracker.
Wait a minute. I'm not being fragile at all. I was just asking if I could respond. If the answer is no, response is not allowed. Fine, then I don't have to fucking respond then.
No, go ahead. But
You
it's not the appease. I just got. So I think you triggered by the appease. I got triggered by the appease.
I'm sorry you got triggered by I used the wrong word. I'll try to avoid using that word.
We didn't know. If they
Okay,
had.
we got somebody telling me to close my pipe hole.
Let him finish. But I just got triggered by the appease piece.
Okay, well, I'm sorry if I use that word. That wasn't my intention. I'm just saying. Okay. All right. Notice how I'm not going to respond to that disrespect at all. Nobody's going to check this guy at all. Just going to let me
just let him
so that's.
just let him respond.
It's okay. No, it's okay. Yeah, you guys can treat me however you want.
No. Stop, y'all.
So I think the point.
And I apologize, my friend, because
No, it's all good. These are your friends. This is how you treat new people in the room. It's all good.
Dude, chill. Because I just.
I am chill. Actually, I'm doing the dishes. I'm sorry that you got triggered by one word. I already said it was not my intention to use that word. It just came out of my mouth, and I'm sorry that was the wrong word. So what I meant was we could use diplomacy to move forward in the relationship with Iran and hope that one day they stop saying death to America. That might work. Or it's also possible that we would move forward with the diplomacy and then my bad. Am I still here? I hit some random buttons with my finger.
Yeah, you is.
So, okay, I'm saying it could work. We could move forward with diplomacy, or it could not work, and they could trick us, and then they could bomb us and kill us, basically. And so, that's basically it. But that's in defense of what America has been doing.
Okay, so let me say.
Okay, Robert, hold on. Because I think Philip wanted to say something because he came off mic and we all been talking.
Yeah, it's a little convoluted. I mean, it's fair to point out like Iran's credibility, but it's also, I think, fair to point out the United States credibility. And depending where we go back in history, I'm not going to repeat all of it, right? With the Shah and the support of the Shah government, basically forestalling the first democracy of Iran and putting in the Shah, with the British. Then Iran, even after that, tried actual diplomacy. This is before JCPOA, right? This is Bush. When the 9/11 happened, Iran reached out, said that they are willing to help. This is, despite all of that history, they actually helped with Afghanistan and ISIS later on. And that there was a moment, right, where Iranians thought like, the relationship with the United States will go back to normal. It didn't, because immediately, like shortly after that, the Bush gave a speech on axis of evil, mentioning Iran as part of the axis of evil, right? Then going back to this again, then there is the JCPOA, again, hope of normalization. Obviously, it again failed because Trump withdrew. So I think it's kind of contextually we have to point out both of those, right? And we should point out the pattern in which Iran goes on for cooperation much more frequently than the United States does, and the party breaking the agreements is usually the United States. So within that context, I'll stop here.
And I agree with you. We talked about that a little bit right before you came in the room, Philip. And you know, like, even when they were